I think our behavior is all kind of predictable, and we're a bit mechanistic. It's not right to write off these psychologists like Jung and Freud that tried to put our psychology into a science. It's demeaning to think that's possible, but it's probably true that we behave in set ways and manners with certain triggers, you know? So I think Jung said when he looked at all the people bidding in the stock market, they were like manifesting a subconscious desire. He related a collective unconscious where we all collectively inside ourselves recall and remember past generations, and I think it means to ancient history. And the Earth has seen many epochs and eras. We know the magnetic poles switch, but also the actual axis of the tilting of the Earth moves. So I think one of the more obvious senses of our collective unconscious is an understanding that places move, that cities become destroyed, that they get rebuilt, or they appear somewhere else, or that the Antarctic at one time was not covered in ice. And this is all inside us. I'm only picking material examples, you know, and there are obviously far deeper meanings that we could concern ourselves with about past epochs. This is one where we're run by a cult of materialism, manifesting in monetization, and now it's gone to the extreme where all the people with money are speculators. The way to make money now is to speculate. It's not to be productive or to be hardworking. And I'm not going to knock it, where that's the reality we live in, but it's been created this way. The laws, the policies have been molded to ensure that that's the way the system works. But they've also introduced some things that aren't bona fide. You know, I grew up in a secular world, in a belief in secularism, and if you like, the mantra of the French Revolution. But it's turned out to be contrary to human nature and a little fascistic in its implementation. But this has been foisted upon us equally. I think humans left to their instincts, as we call them, their natural behaviors, are quite concerned about infidelity, and it's one of the greatest ways of destroying stability in a relationship. The religions embody this very strongly, but the secularism sort of does the opposite and makes us think we're all free. But we have instincts like to procreate, and in a secular world, you could almost argue it's to avoid procreation. I mean, Europe and America are not creating many babies. The populations are aging, and people don't want to take on the worry of it all. The worry of it all is, just that it could collapse, as most of the marriages seem to, and who's responsible, and how can you afford it, and all the rules and regulations that we have to live under. But if we look at our primordial facets, our instincts, you can see they manifest into the financial world as well. They use terms that are normally confined to sexuality. The cycle, the yield, the bond, and the unity between a lender and a borrower can be seen as male and female, two opposites. So I was asked about Bitcoin. Someone wrote me an email and asked me to say, if it's going to do well or not. And of course, I'm not a good speculator. That if I were, I'd probably be in that business. So I don't know, but nevertheless, the temptation to answer I gave. In large measure, it's my ideas come from comments, other people's ideas. That's all we can do is synthesize what we observe. But what we're going to get is a lot more cryptocurrencies. It's not going to stop with Bitcoin. And I don't think Bitcoin will be allowed to remain on top. Someone will not allow it. Governments, rich people, whatever. And so the Bitcoin's going to continue to go up and up in the months ahead. And then it's going to go down and down and down. And other cryptocurrencies are going to become very commonplace. We actually see Venezuela government instituting it, and we're seeing other countries looking at instituting it, central banks. One hypothesis is that all the high street banks will kind of disappear, and we'll all have an account with the central bank. I'm not for this at all. But in a way, it's another attack on Islam, which actually enshrines solid money of gold and silver, and here you have people speculating on the never never, on the nothing. But it is a form of communication, apparently, the Bitcoin protocol, the cryptocurrency protocols, and that's something we crave for, and so it can be seen as a manifestation of our need to communicate. Of course, it's sublimated, it's not the real thing. So I've been saying for some time that it looks like Russia is going to take over the mantle of America. America's in decline, it's going to go, and Russia's going to take the helm. In other words, the Zionists are going to use Russia, its advanced military, which seems like the most advanced on the planet, and they're going to use Russia as the new policeman. And Russia probably has very little choice in the matter. So anyway, we see today Putin, he flew to Syria, and then to Egypt, and then to Turkey, and you can kind of guess what's happening in each place. But in Syria, Assad cannot continue. To save face, he can continue until there are new elections, and the new elections could come very suddenly. But he cannot unify the country. That's what I've heard through the grapevine, and it sounds correct. In Egypt has been so pally with Russia, it's suspicious, because Sisi hasn't got a good record. He's a bit secular. That's not illegal, but he's wiped out lots of unarmed protesters for which he should not be forgiven, and all sorts of terrible imprisoning and violation of rights and torture and disappearances, you name it. So what's he doing with Russia? Well, he's offering Russia air bases, and you've got to ask why. I keep asking why, but I'm more inclined to think if there's a conflict with Saudi Arabia of some sort, that Egypt will allow Russia access should it become the policeman. We'll all hear about a dreaded ISIS entity or something of that order, and the need, to quell it. The old story, the old pattern, we've heard it 100 times before. And now he's flown to Turkey all in one day. And so he's kind of picking up the mantle of the Middle East. And it's hard to make sense of Erdogan because he followed NATO so strongly and yet has a Muslim flag in his hand. And it's hard to combine the two and to make sense of it. And now he's all pally with Russia. So I kind of opt out on predicting what Turkey's role is, but it'll probably end up aligned with Iran and Russia out of necessity. As an expat, you can pretty much travel around the world and get by. Humans are humans. You can understand one another one way or another. But if there were an exception, I would consider Cambodia. I would suggest it. This means don't have it, or the person's not here. It's a negative, okay? And I'm not exaggerating or giving you a seldom used expression. This is common. It's used up and down the country all the time. Everybody, do you have milk or water or whatever? That means no, don't have it. But simple things like you're lost and you need directions, and you ask somebody where a place is, and I don't know. Normally, you if someone understands you, they point in the direction you need to go, or they point this way and you go that way or that way. That does not happen here. There's such a cultural divide. Someone gives you directions, and I honestly cannot make sense of it. And it's just a simple pointing, but they just don't do it like we do it. I'm not blaming them. It's their country. It's their way. So it's a very difficult language for me. I need your help with donations, please. It was really bad. So I need your help if you can. Send anything along to any of the links. I don't know. I don't see any news to get my teeth into. Maybe it's a mid-age crisis, or maybe there's no news. But I'll keep going. And thanks a lot for looking and listening. You know, I open these different accounts now. And since there's been trouble with YouTube, I opened different accounts in different places. And I just opened a group on Telegram. I've no idea if it's a good idea even, but I've done it. You know, I've got Vimeo and other sites.